What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome back to my channel. Yesterday, I gave you my top 10 quarterbacks in the nation for 2020. Now we're going to break it down conference by conference and eventually get to the group of five and independent, and then we'll start over with a new position. But today, I'm going to be giving you my top 10 quarterbacks in the Atlantic Coast Conference for 2020. This is a conference where I expect the quarterback position to be much improved this year. Of course, you had Trevor Lawrence last year, and there wasn't really anyone else who impressed too much. Of course, you did have Jamie Newman last year. You did have Sam Howell last year, but lots of guys transferring and lots of guys transferring out. And this is a conference that I expect the quarterback position to be much improved. So to kick it off at number 10, I have Tommy DeVito of the Syracuse Orange. Now, Syracuse was pretty darn good in 2018, but had a disappointing 2019. But Tommy DeVito still showed out, 2,360 passing yards with 19 passing touchdowns and only 5 interceptions, made some really, really smart throws with the football. Did Tommy DeVito, led to a 137.7 passer rating with a 63% completion percentage. Overall, not that bad. Proved he can run it if he had to. Doesn't really like to run those. You see there, only 122 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. Had a lot of struggles last season. There were spurts where he looked really good and spurts where he just plain looked awful, but managed to keep the ball out of the safeties and cornerbacks' hands. As I said, only 5 interceptions. I think he could still be smarter with the football. There were some throws that he tried to force that maybe almost could have been picked. It's a Syracuse team that overall isn't that great, but I do expect this Syracuse team to be maybe a little bit better than it was last year, but overall, I don't expect Syracuse to do all that much next year, but I do expect Tommy DeVito to still have a pretty darn good season. That's why he's at number 9. That's why he's at number 10. Number 9 is Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a team that I think people are sleeping on this year. Now, I don't expect them to do anything crazy this year, but you definitely still do have to watch out for Pittsburgh. And while Pittsburgh was pretty okay last year, Kenny Pickett was pretty darn good. Almost 3,100 passing yards with 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. While Pickett was good, he could throw the ball downfield. I do think he's got to make some smarter throws with the football. I say there definitely could have thrown for more touchdowns and definitely could have thrown less interceptions. But overall, still a fairly decent season for Kenny Pickett. Doesn't really like to run the football either. As you see down there, 110 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. 122.4 passer rating last year, which isn't great, but it's also not terrible. And overall, at a 62% completion percentage. Kenny Pickett is a guy that I feel like is going to improve in 2020, and I just feel like Pitt overall is heading in the right direction with Pat Narduzzi, and they're going to be able to get some pretty good wins this year, I do believe, and I expect Kenny Pickett to make some smarter throws with the football, and Pitt is going to get back on track. It's why Kenny Pickett is at number 9. Number 8, I have Chase Brice. Chase Brice is a guy that's been the backup at Clemson for 2 years and is said that enough is enough, and he is transferring to Duke. So Duke now has finally fixed their quarterback problems with Chase Brice, and since he hasn't started a lot, I'm going to give you his career stats, which is 1,023 passing yards, 9 passing touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And overall for his career has a 141.5 passer rating, which is pretty good for a guy who hasn't even started a game, I don't think. Chase Brice is the guy that I do think can boost this Duke team a little bit, and it's a Duke team that is bringing in some okay talent, not really all that great of talent anyway around there at Duke, but I think it's a good fit for Chase Brice, and I think it's really going to show what Chase Brice is capable of. But before I can put him higher than number 8 in the ACC, I do need to see how he fits in that starting role. Hasn't started a game in college, and I just think he needs to perform under the spotlight before I can rank him any higher, and until that happens, Chase Brice is going to sit at number 8. Number 7 is Sam Hartman. I've talked about Sam Hartman a lot. I feel like people are sleeping on Sam Hartman. He's a guy that I really, really like. Got hurt last year, but I think he's going to bounce back and perform even better than where he was in 2018. You look at his stats from 2018 since he got hurt in 2019. I'm going with his 2018 stats. Almost 2,000 passing yards with 16 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, overall a 125.2 passer rating, which again isn't terrible, but also not great. Proves he can run the football if he has to. 275 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he's learned a lot watching Jamie Newman there at Wake Forest. Had one of the better passing attacks last year. Sam Hartman played a little bit of the season, but then got hurt, of course. Then Jamie Newman came in and has Decides to transfer to Georgia. So now Sam Hartman is the guy for Wake Forest. Got maybe a guy or two out there in wide receiver that can make a play, but I think Sam Hartman's ability to throw the football in there is going to be why Wake Forest is any sort of decent next year. They were pretty darn good last year, but that was also because of Jamie Newman. They're losing a lot of that production. Sam Hartman is the guy who I can't say enough good things about Sam Hartman. I think he's very, very undervalued, and I expect him to have a pretty darn good 2020 season. He's going to make some smarter throws with the football. I think that completion percentage is going to go up. He knows this guy's really well. He's got some chemistry with him, and I just think Sam Hartman is overall going to have a pretty darn good season. That's why he's at number 7. Number 6, I have James Blackmon from Florida State. Last year, he did fairly decent as well, 2,339 passing yards with 17 passing touchdowns and 11 interceptions. He was kind of thrown in there in the season. Of course, DeAndre Francois, a lot has been going on with DeAndre Francois, but now James Blackmon is going to be the full-time starter here, and I do expect him to make some smarter decisions with the football. You see there, 11 interceptions. That's not great. You never want to have double-digit interceptions. And I do believe that James Blackmon is going to start making some smarter throws with the football. Overall, did have a 142 passing rating, which is pretty darn good for a guy who was kind of thrown in there and tried to force a lot of the balls. But now he is getting Mike Norvell as the head coach, and we all know he loves offense. You just see how many points Memphis put up. That offense can translate to Florida State, and Florida State can use their weapons to the fullest extent. I think James Blackmon is going to have a very, very good season. That's why he's the number 6 ranked quarterback for me in the ACC. Number 5 is Hendon Hooker from Virginia Tech. He was kind of thrown in the middle of the season and won Virginia Tech a lot of games. Of course, lost the game against Virginia, but overall still, when he got thrown in the middle of the season, still a really, really good quarterback. With being mine, he got thrown in the middle of the season, 1,555 passing yards with 13 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions, still made the most of all of his throws, which led to a 61% completion percentage and a 165.8 passer rating, showed he could run the football as well, 356 rushing yards with 5 rushing touchdowns. And he had great chemistry with Trey Turner, who was also coming back, and a guy I only expect to improve this year as well. I think Hendon Hooker has got chemistry worked out, and although he's young, I do think next year we're going to see those stats double. Just because he is going to be playing a full season. I'm talking about the passing yards, passing touchdowns, and with the smart throws he made while he was starting, I do think that his interception or touchdown interception ratio is still going to be as high as it was last year, maybe even higher. I really like Hendon Hooker, and I really like the Virginia Tech team. They've proved that, Hendon Hooker really can throw the football well. As I've said before, he made lots of smart decisions, and I expect Hendon Hooker to have a really, really good season in 2020. It's why he is number 5. But now we move on to number 4, and it's going to be Mikhail or Malik Cunningham, whichever you want to call it. I'm going to say Malik Cunningham. It's just easier for me. But Malik Cunningham was a pretty good last season in the Louisville team that surprised a lot of people. You look, 2,061 passing yards, 22 passing touchdowns with 5 interceptions, and he could run the ball as well, 482 rushing yards with 6 rushing touchdowns. He overall had a 194.4 passer rating, which is crazy high. That is crazy high. Also a 62% completion percentage, but that passing rating is the stat that jumps out to me the most. I think he's due for a breakout season after a passer rating like that. He has one of the best wide receivers in college football in Tutu Atwell. Lots of other weapons at wide receiver. I think Malik Cunningham, as I just said, is due for a breakout season in a Louisville team that is also going to be much improved. And I feel like Malik Cunningham is a very undervalued quarterback, just like a lot of quarterbacks in the ACC. And I just think that he is due for a breakout season. I'm going to say it so many times, but that passer rating was absolutely insane. And I think Tutu Atwell is going to have a big season for him as well. I expect him to be a 3,000-yard passer and my number 4 quarterback in the ACC. But number 3 is Derek King. I covered him yesterday. I won't spend too much time on him, but I'll talk about it again. The move to Miami was absolutely a fantastic move, I think, with Miami having the quarterback troubles they've had with Tate Martell not working out, N'Kosi Perry being kind of okay, but overall I do think Derek King is going to beat him out. You look at what he did in 2018. Of course, he got hurt in 2019. 2018, 2,982 passing yards with 36 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Made some absolutely phenomenal throws, and he can run the football as well. 674 rushing yards with 14 rushing touchdowns. Derek King, in my opinion, is going to be absolutely insane in 2020 if he can return to his 2018 form, and my 3rd best quarterback in the ACC. Now we'll move on to number 2, and it is Sam Howell. If you remember, I also covered him yesterday. Sam Howell is a guy that I also really like in a North Carolina team that I expect to be much improved this year. North Carolina, of course, returning basically their entire offensive line, and Sam Howell has a lot of good weapons out there on wide receiver. You look at what he did last year as a freshman. These numbers are absolutely crazy for a freshman. 3,641 passing yards with 38 passing touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. Made some absolutely incredible throws. Made a couple mistakes, but that's what you expect from a freshman. Overall had a 160.2 passer rating, which is insanely good. That's crazy. Not really a runner. Did have a rushing touchdown last season, but he is being protected by one of the more underrated offensive lines in the country, in my opinion. I do think that I do think that Sam Howell is going to be a really, really solid quarterback next year, and one of the better quarterbacks in the entire nation. If you remember from yesterday's video, I had him at number 3. I just think he's going to only improve on what he did as a freshman under Mac Brown. He is going to be crazy, but I had to give the number 1 spot to Trevor Lawrence. I just had to. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a Heisman contender, one of the top, and it goes back and forth between him and Justin Fields to win the Heisman this year, and on a team that makes the college football playoff year in and year out. Clemson is really good, and it starts with Trevor Lawrence. 3,665 passing yards, 36 passing touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions in 2019. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, didn't play too well at the start of last season, but really did get better as the season went on, made lots of smarter throws as he was the full-time starter for them last year. Overall led to a 166.7 passer rating and proved he can run the football. Had a big run against Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl last year in the playoff semifinal that really ended up turning the game around for Clemson. And overall in 2019 had 563 rushing yards with 9 rushing touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence this year is going to be a very, very good quarterback, and I expect nothing but top praise for Trevor Lawrence. And he is losing his top target in Justin Ross, but still has guys like Joseph Ngata, lots of other weapons there for Clemson, and has one of the best backs in the nation in Travis Etienne, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield no problem as well. Trevor Lawrence is going to be an interesting guy to watch after just see, if he can improve on 2020, maybe throw less interceptions that he did. But Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, is far and away the best quarterback in the ACC for 2020. All right, that is going to do it for my top 10 quarterbacks in 2020 for the ACC conference. And if you guys enjoyed, please do leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you're brand new to the channel, or just enjoy my content, turn on that bell to join Tailgate Nation. And if you haven't done so already, please leave a comment down below and tell me your thoughts on the quarterbacks playing in the ACC this year. And as always, until next time, remember, play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.